Is that going to protect us? Oh, is our nuclear weapons going to protect us? I don't know. That's what's scary. Because they are so farther advanced than us. You know, like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Michael Hall was talking about that today. You know, they were making basically a roadway through the solar systems and stuff like that. And Earth was in its way. Well, they had a cure for that. They pushed this button. And when they pushed the button, the Earth was vaporized. So, that's my scary stories. But again, hey, come on, guys. Don't be shy. It's 1-253-203-6695. 1-253-203-6695. You got to get in the habit of giving us a call, because that's what we are. We're just not going to sit here and talk with guests. We want to talk to you, the listener. You're all part of the family. So, I mean, you know, if you got a scary story, why don't you give us a call and we'll talk about it? Or I can be sitting in the chair sweating bullets. Doesn't really matter to me. But I don't know. Okay, we got a call right now, so let's take it. Okay, this is Gary at Night Dreams Talk Radio. Who do we have?
It's Robert again, and you know, I'm starting to think that it might be that people's phones. If you call from a phone, maybe it'll be better. Because every time I've called you so far, it's worked. Yeah,
it's been Skype or whatever. It's really, really strange that I see a number flash on the left side of the Skype, page, and the number will flash for a split second, and then it's gone. And then when I'm all done and I exit out of Skype, that's when it shows all these missed calls.
Well, I've only got one more story for you because I've only got two experiences at all to draw.
Go ahead and go for it.
I was sitting here about to email you about it, but I figured I might as well tell it on the air. But the only other time, this is the first experience that I had, I was working in Applegate, Oregon, working on a farm, and I was sleeping outside, laying down on my back in my sleeping bag, and I'm looking up at the sky. It was a real clear night. I'm looking up at the sky, and I'm wondering to myself, like, having these half-latent thoughts, like, man, I've never seen a UFO once. And I've been into this. I mean, I'm only 28, but I've been into this for 10, 15 years, like, kind of seriously, taking people seriously when they tell their stories. So it's like, man, I've never experienced it. I've been looking for it, too. And so I'm sitting there having those thoughts, and then in that very same moment, I see what I thought looked like the space station, making its real slow, wide arc across the sky. And so I'm watching it, and I thought to myself, in few split seconds, your brain goes through, okay, is that a plane? No, it's not a plane. Okay, it's a space station. It's moving like the space station moves. And then, at the moment I see it and establish it as the space station, it starts making zigzags on that path, real slow zigzags, not fast ones. And then it makes a circle backwards, as if to double back, and then goes back into the arc, makes more zigzags, slow zigzags, and then circles backwards again, and then goes the opposite direction, which I mean, even if you're tripping balls, you know the space station goes in one direction. You can't go the other way like that.
No,
so,
the satellites are all going to go on a normal type pattern, so they're not going to fluctuate.
And so, the moment that I noticed that, like, okay, maybe I'm just like pareidolia, or maybe I'm just imagining that it's moving because I'm not focusing on anything in the foreground. But then I saw it going backwards. I was like, man, this is. And it literally disappeared back behind the barn that I saw it come from. And so the strangest part about this whole experience wasn't, I saw something in the sky. It was, I had the thought, and immediately, as if to illustrate my point, it was, you've never seen a UFO? You want to complain about not seeing a UFO? Well, here it is. And, that was 5-7 years after I started getting into it. And I figured, when you start looking for stuff, you start seeing stuff regardless if it's real or not.
Well, it's that's just like if you go out and buy yourself a new Honda car, right? Depending on the model, right? What do you see after you buy it? You see a whole bunch of them, one right after another. You go for a ride, you see a whole bunch of them. Well, once you've seen a UFO, your brain is more adapt to it, and you notice it. But if you know anybody that has any infrared binoculars, Or
I do. And the moment that I heard on your show about people looking at the sky with those, I immediately started messaging my buddy, or he's not my buddy, he's my friend's dad's buddy. But whenever I went over his house, I got to look through them. And if only I had known what I know now back then, I would have been immediately just camping up at the sky, just staring.
Oh yeah, that if once you do that, I mean, you're going to see some things out there that it'll amaze you. That isn't a satellite, that isn't an asteroid, because it's moving one direction. It'll come almost to a stop and then zig a different direction. I've seen that so many times. When I used to manage a couple chain stores, professional camera stores, we used to import back in the early 2000s Russian, and Czechoslovakian infrared binoculars. And, I made the mistake one night and took one home and looked at the sky, and that's all it took. And I
can't forget that.
Yeah, and then I contacted the group of people at the observatory and told them, and they didn't believe me. I said, okay, well, you take a pair home, to the group for the weekend at your meet, and you go out and you come back on Monday, and you tell me. And you know what? I think we sold 12 pairs like within a couple days to all the members. Wow. Because they saw stuff that they never saw with these big telescopes and all this stuff. They never saw it. But when they looked through those binoculars with infrared, they could see things out there that you can't see.
That's incredible.
So, and then, like I said, Trump today, like I said, 2 months ago, he was talking about, I'm going to create a Space Force. People kind of like, that's Trump, right? Today, he's directed the Pentagon to do it. Him and the vice president, they're going to create it. Now, does that tell you that maybe do we already have one and we're trying to cover it up? Or
I honestly think that would be the only way to introduce it to the public is slowly. And you know how culture is nowadays. People, gobble up stuff and they don't even know what they're digesting. So the minute they like you said, when he first announced it, people hear it. They hear the words that are happening, and they don't take the serious because it's not all happening at once, So I believe that that's the only way that they're going to be able to get that in people's minds without freaking them out.
Well, yeah, I do think there's something going on. That, because he mentioned today, he said not just defend from other countries, against missiles, it's to defend Earth. And that, you can read that in very strong thing. Reagan did the same thing with Star Wars. I had the luck because I knew somebody that was a very good friend of Reagan. They knew that I was into Reagan, and they made a phone call to Reagan. Reagan, when he was president, called me up, and he was doing his national once-a-month thing where he, people could call in and ask, questions, about, the presidency and all, different things. Well, he called me up, and we kind of developed a very light friendship. But I talked to Reagan probably a dozen times after that.
Interesting.
And, he told me that he came out and said there are things out there that would amaze me and everybody, and that he was trying to push Star Wars not so much against, like, say, Russia or the Soviet Union at that time. He was looking at the future to protect Earth. That's
chilling.
Well, it just tells you, there's, and then I brought it up earlier today on a special news thing. You look at Nixon and Jackie Gleason. Jackie Gleason, even before he died on his deathbed, swears up and down that, because he was good friends with Nixon, that supposedly Nixon took him to Area 51 and showed him a body of an alien. So I do think that there are things out there, but every time they have bring something up, where they say, well, there's the UFOs, right? Then they immediately, there's somebody out there in a different part of the government, right? It debunks it.
Yeah, and it's like that. It's weird. You were saying a couple shows ago how they're coming out with this information as if to show us, oh, something's happened, but like you said, they immediately debunk their own information as if to try. That's another way, I think, of edging on to people. Like, we'll introduce it. Oh, but no, that's not real. Oh, but wait, it's still happening. But oh, that can't be it. Still doing the whole status quo thing just to slowly bring it into people's consciousness.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the people could actually accept. If the government came out right now and said, hey, look, there is aliens that have been visiting Earth. They have for many, many decades or even more. And there are friendly ones, and there's some that maybe aren't so friendly. The problem I see, could we defend ourselves? If there was a race of whatever, it decided they wanted to make Earth their land now, they could come in here and conquer us really fast, because what are we going to use? I mean, it's like having a slingshot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and then even more than that, what would, if these kinds of civilizations of creatures have the ability to do this, like we pretty much kind of know that they already do, the most interesting part is that they haven't. And it must be for some real specific reason, because there's only so many reasons why you don't devastate your enemies, or what you might consider something that's, like you said, like food. Even if they look at us as food, or if they look at us as a resource of some kind, there must be a reason that they haven't just driven us into the dirt yet.
Well, have you ever thought, when you went to McDonald's, and hopefully I don't get sued for this, but you bite down on that burger and you sit there to yourself, oh my God, that little burger contains 5,000 different parts of 5,000 different cows in that one piece of meat.
Sure.
And do you ever feel sorry? For the cattle that don't know better and they get slaughtered? I mean, it's the same way. I mean, if you take a race that's so far advanced over us, they could look at us the same way that we look at that cow, that heifer.
Oh, yeah.
We're nothing more than cattle to them. And that's what's scary. I mean, you got these people walking around thinking, oh, no. We're so far advanced. We're this civilization. Oh, no. We're not that advanced
We're
at
at
all.
The bottom of the totem pole.
Well, put it this way. If somebody can do time travel or come from a different dimension or come from another solar system and visit Earth, it scares me. And, it's just like I had a guest on that swore up and down when he was a kid. His father was a dispatcher for their local police department. And, he remembered going there and seeing it, along with most of the little town people, went and saw it. They didn't see the UFO, but they heard that a UFO landed for a short period of time and took off. So the townspeople went there. By the time they got there, the UFO was gone, but like a 20, 30-foot round circle was there, burnt all the way through the asphalt. And it looked like you took mercury, and you dropped mercury drops all around. And that was there, and it was still smoking and burning when the townspeople got there, whatever it created it. But he remembered this like mercury metal, droplets everywhere around the circle. And then you talk about, some of these people talk about how the UFOs propel themselves and stuff like that and all that stuff. And then you have some scientists say, well, when they come into our atmosphere, they overheat. Their systems overheat, so that's why they go into the water to cool down, or they have to land for a short period of time to cool back down. Makes you wonder, hey.
Yeah.
But what was scary about this thing is that the police department didn't order it to be paved. The owner, the hospital, didn't call up anybody and say, hey, we want you to come here and repave the asphalt right now. But in the middle of the night, when the people got there that next morning, to gawk at it more, the whole parking lot was re-asphalted. And there was nobody there did the asphalting, but somebody in the middle of the night came in and asphalted the parking lot. And that, when you think about it, how long would it take to re-asphalt, a parking lot? And especially when you got it burned into, all through the asphalt right down to the ground level.
And that's premium wages you're paying whoever is getting that done in the middle of the night, too. So it definitely gives you an idea of the scope of such an operation.
Well, that, like I asked him, I said, did your dad or the police department try to, and he goes, well, hey, I was only 9 years old at the time, and I talked to my dad afterwards and he was instructed, hey, it never happened.
Uh-huh.
So my